OJ Simpson has passed away by cancer at the age of 76. It's unfortunate that his life ended this way, but yeah, long life all of us can hope for. But this legacy of his is pretty turbulent. On the one hand, in his earlier years, he became a huge football star, Heisman Trophy winner for the University of Southern California, drafted into the NFL and had a legendary career. So legendary that he became a Hall of Famer. He won one of the gold jackets. After his football career ended, well, his on the field football career ended, he became an NBC commentator, obviously working with NBC Sports. He became one of the biggest pitchmen of commercials and everything else. The Hertz rental car commercial, "Go OJ, go!" He became an amazing actor, acting in television and movies. Shows like the television miniseries Roots, and of course the Naked Gun trilogy movies with Leslie Nielsen, heaven rest his soul. Unfortunately, he was also OJ Simpson, the wife batterer. And we know this for a fact. Now, mind you, we have to honor the man, yes. But we got to tell the truth about the whole man. And unfortunately, the whole man that was OJ Simpson was unfortunately turbulent. And that turbulence led to a crash on June 1994. Now, ironically, a day ago, before I made this video, I actually sat down for the first time in a long time and watched the ESPN 30 for 30 documentary, June 14th, 1994. Now, a quick synopsis about that, just real quick. The makers of this documentary wanted to highlight every major sports event that happened on that particular day. For one, we had the victory parade of the New York Rangers winning their first Stanley Cup in 54 years. We had the World Cup, the soccer FIFA World Cup, opening in Chicago, Illinois. We had the MLB games going on strike for the first time in decades. We had Arnold Palmer playing his last majors for the PGA Tour before he retired. Well, before he went to the senior PGA and his retirement a couple of years later. And we had the NBA Finals reaching a pivotal Game 5 between the New York Knicks and the Houston Rockets. Yeah, that's right, the Houston Rockets. And of course, on that day, June 14th, 1994, we got the chase, the white Bronco chase. Now, I was a kid at the time, so I didn't know what was really going on. I was in middle school. I was watching the NBA Finals with my family. And then I see this white truck being chased by police officers. And the next thing I know, everyone my family, my parents, were mystified as well. But then the name OJ Simpson came up. They were all taken aback. Like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? I only knew him as some kind of actor, and he had a pretty cool name. OJ Simpson. Orange juice. But then I found out that he was a murder suspect and he was on the run from the police. So obviously, I wondered what was going on. What was going on? Remind you, I was just a kid at the time. So I didn't know what was going on. Or I didn't fully understand. And then the trial came up. I didn't know what was happening all around me. People were so glued to their televisions as to a murder trial. Like, who did this guy kill? Oh, the president? I mean, that was my mentality at the time. And then I find out that I was not guilty, and I saw all these people cheering and crying. Now, mind you, all this is from the perspective of a kid, of a child. So I didn't really understand what was going on around me. But then the old axiom is you get older, you get wiser. So I did my research as to what was going on years later. And I find out that this guy was a football player, an amazing football player, a Hall of Famer. And I thought to myself, okay, what else about him? That he was an actor. And I knew I recognized him mainly because of the Naked Gun movies, the comedies with Leslie Nielsen, ever rest his soul. I saw old videos of him in commercials, like the Hertz commercial. Go OJ, go! And then I realized that the people he killed was his wife Nicole Brown and his friend Ronald Goldman. And I watched the trial, and the videos of it were pretty good. Now, when I started studying law and everything else, in law enforcement at the time, I thought to myself, okay, this is the perfect chance for me to understand. So I walked into it. And everything you could possibly, Hollywood couldn't script a better scenario than this. So I actually watched the trial. And honestly, the evidence, regardless of the gloves, the evidence and everything and the motive started pointing towards OJ Simpson. I think OJ did. And I still think that OJ did, even to this day. Even after he passes away, I still believe that OJ Simpson killed the two of them. Obviously, he was found not guilty of all charges, and he was sent on his way. However, his reputation was damaged. America's sweetheart, America's symbol, was now its living villain. As I said earlier, you get older, you get wiser. Those video clips of me seeing African Americans cheering and white Americans crying, I have to let's put that into context right now. To the African Americans who were cheering that O.J. Simpson got away, should I use that phrase? Yeah, got away with murder, literally. That was so inappropriate, at least in my opinion. Because this was not a civil rights trial. This wasn't Martin Luther King. This wasn't Nelson Mandela. This wasn't Malcolm X getting away, well, being exonerated for crimes. This was a murder trial of a man who may have killed his wife and his best friend. This was nothing more than that. But of course, they celebrate it, and I find it incredibly inappropriate. And as for the white Americans out there who were crying their eyes out after the verdict was announced, that was inappropriate too, for the simple fact that the only people who had any kind of right or reason to cry after the verdict was read were the Goldmans and the Browns, because their daughter and son, brother and sister-in-law, or regardless of relation, was killed, were murdered, and the person who committed those murders got away with it. But the reason why I think they got that he was exonerated was one person. Well, a slew of other things, but the one person that got for the prosecution that got off O.J. Simpson was, of course, Mark Fuhrman, formerly of the LAPD. When he was asked, "Did you plant evidence in this case?" Like any good ethical cop, the answer would be no, I didn't. Why would you ask me that? That is ridiculous. But unfortunately, Mark Fuhrman answered by taking the Fifth Amendment. Now, mind you, taking the Fifth Amendment isn't an admission of guilt, but it looks pretty bad, especially on a criminal case like this. So OJ Simpson was freed, but his reputation was destroyed. And the final destructive irony, over a decade later, in 2007, he got himself arrested again. In September of 2007, he led a group of men into a room in the Palace Station Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, he broke into that hotel and stole sports memorabilia at gunpoint. That was exactly 13 years to the day that he was acquitted for the murder trial. For those charges, he was sentenced to 33 years in prison, with the eligibility of parole in 9 years. He was obviously released on October 1st of 2017, and his reputation hasn't survived since. Whenever anyone thinks about OJ Simpson, they think about the trial he got away with and the trial that sent him to prison for over 10 years. And now, here's a question for all of you. How will you remember OJ Simpson? As one of the greatest football players that ever lived? As a legendary football player? As a great actor who had a lot of great roles? As a television product spokesman, like Hertzman a car, go OJ, go! Or will you remember him as the wife beater, the batterer, the possible murderer, and the armed robber? You decide. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.